Thank you so much, Trinity. I'm really delighted to be here to share my research, and I really hope that the mayors find this useful. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you guys are looking at two book covers. The book that June and I wrote more than 10 years ago now, and the new book that is coming out this fall that really retrofits have gotten so much more ambitious. We really felt the need to write a new book. I maintain our database. We have over 2,000 examples, and I won't show all of them. It might feel like it, but Trinity asked me to just, select a couple that really focus on especially issues of affordability, equity, and that can set us up for then to really a discussion about, as we know that we're going to see even more of these properties going vacant, what do we do post-pandemic? So with that, why is it not advancing? There we go. Okay, so the first project I'm going to show is really a simple, on many respects, it's incredibly modest, little retrofit, and yet it has enormous ripple effects. So this, aging garden apartments, every city has a lot of these. They were mostly, the peak year of productions was sort of in the 60s, but a lot of them have been aging out. They're mostly to obsolescence. They're kind of the housing of last resort for an awful lot of people. And yet they're not being replaced, and they are still needed for, since 2005, more Americans in poverty have been living in the suburbs really than in the cities. And this is often the kind of housing they're in. And what has the patterns that one finds, just like has been told in the book on evictions, is that a lot of the tenants are single moms working $10 an hour jobs. If they miss a shift because a kid gets sick, they lose their job, they have to move to another apartment, and then they're moving their kids around from school to school. And these kids are really losing a lot of their education. And Margie Stagmeyer is a real estate manager, and literally, very profit-oriented. In 1994, she wrote the book on real estate asset management. She was managing several of these garden apartment complexes that were, pretty cheap rent and constant churn of people. So there's always quite a lot of vacancies. This particular one is in Marietta, Georgia, and a large complex, but very moldy. It was in terrible shape. She wanted to make improvements, and the city actually told her no. They denied her permit. They said, we want that thing to fall down. It's just an eyesore, and it's bringing down the local school. Because all those 400 apartments, there were about 300 kids that were going to this one elementary school that was now on the state's list for failing schools. So instead, Margie made a partnership with the school and made one little retrofit. She turned one apartment into an after-school program. What that did, then the city let her make some improvements. She cleaned up the place, but she never raised the rents. But that one little change meant that the kids get to know each other. Through the kids, the parents get to know each other. They cover each other when a kid is sick. Suddenly, she's got full tenants and stable. It's absolutely stable. She's making more profit, and so are her tenants. And the school, within 5 years, went to a top performing, tier 1 distinction from a failing school. And there's a lot more to the story, but all I'll sort of say is that she has now established a Starcy, a nonprofit, and she's targeting aging apartment complexes in the worst performing elementary school districts, and preaching to other property owners, the benefits of not raising the rents, keeping a stable population, and really just seeing all of those improvements. So now, in addition to the after school, she's also providing, she has healthcare folks coming in once a month, meals for the kids, community gardens, and it's an pretty incredible win-win, all just from starting a little after school program. So, rehabilitation is often a terrific solution. We have these existing buildings. If there are vacancies, we can fill them with really great community serving uses. This is another one. Here was the vacant strip mall. The hardware store had died, and the mayor was nervous. There was one of the discount dollar store brands wanted to come in, was the only retailer who'd shown any interest in moving in. And they had a lot of those already in their community. He didn't want that. So he turned to a local small developer, Monty Anderson, and they started brainstorming, and they partnered on turning it into a local small business incubator. This was a community just south of Dallas, DeSoto, Texas, where what businesses were mostly chain stores. There was very little that was local. So the city runs Pitch Day, where entrepreneurs are invited to come and pitch their business idea, and provides then a mentorship program to help them really learn, how do you do the accounting, how do you actually, how to really be successful business owners. And Monty renovated the department store. He also took out a swath of the parking lot to depaved it and brought in some food trucks and picnic tables to have a little bit of networking space. He hopes to build some apartments on another part of the parking lot soon. But it just, it's a great example of converting what was all sort of national retailers to really helping to grow the local businesses and in a community that really quite needed them. But as a lot of communities also really want to see redevelopment, and so in strong markets that are growing, underperforming suburban properties provide a lot of opportunities. And this example, I think, is interesting because it really started with looking not so much at the private property that was underperforming, but the public property. So if we go over to this diagram on the left, here's the before condition. Really enormous slip lanes. This was designed literally to be a highway interchange for a highway that was never built. And so, but it's also just off this map, there's Fort Totten Metro Station. So it was cutting off. Pedestrians couldn't get to and from the metro station because of this really horrendous intersection. So the city said, all right, we want that intersection turned into a 90-degree walkable, crossable intersection. And in doing that, they also recovered all this public land that they could now say, all right, now we want more affordable housing close to the transit. And it's very much in progress, really pretty remarkable, I think, what's been going on. These are some existing 1940s apartment buildings that are being replaced with much higher density. But the existing tenants, all of whom, it turned out something, I think 94% of the existing tenants were well into their 60s, if not older. And so they're being given 100% replacement senior housing units, but at the same rent that they were paying previously. So they have not been displaced. They're given new housing, but at the same time, the developer is building a lot more market rate housing in a hot, strong market. Similarly, over here, a Walmart has come in on this corner with very affordable units up above that. So you're getting the affordable retail with the affordable units and market rate, and close to affordable transportation. And then new New housing is also coming in with quite a lot of affordable units on that remaining big green parcel. So that ability to, I think, see and the change of just by making it more walkable, suddenly now this area has really been opened up. And I wish we saw a lot more cities requiring that replacement units, if you have to demolish any of that older housing in order to really meet the market and increase access to transit, then you really should make it a requirement that you're replacing units for those people and not no one's getting displaced. So, but redevelopment is not going to be the answer everywhere either. And sometimes, especially in the face of climate change and more severe storms, regreening can be an incredibly powerful tool. In my opinion, it doesn't happen often enough, but this is a really great example. Meriden, Connecticut had built a downtown mall. We built a lot of those with the tail end of urban renewal money in the late 60s, early 70s. But they built it right on top of a creek. That was normal before the Clean Water Act. So they just culverted the creek. Well, it flooded a lot. Here's a photo in 1992 of, like the 5th downtown flood. And the mall tried to make a go of it, but finally died. So now what they've done is they demolished the mall and they replaced it with a stormwater park. It's a park designed kind of like a bathtub. So in good weather, it's a nice park. And they day-lit the creek. So now the creek is back flowing through it, much better water quality when it gets sunlight. And now it's an amenity. It's this beautiful park right in the middle of downtown. And it's now capturing it's removing downtown properties from the floodplain, because now that bathtub holds all the stormwater that otherwise used to flood downtown. It's a great strategy. We're seeing several other places putting in stormwater parks. It's, especially if you have a combined sewer overflow problem, stormwater parks can be a great way to fix that. And what's always really interesting with all of the regreening projects is that they become an amenity. And it's not exactly lakefront property, but at least it's parkfront, creekfront property, and it attracts redevelopment. So, the reason they did it was really for to fix the flooding and get rid of this dead mall. But what they created an amenity, and that has now triggered some old public housing that had been flooding a lot as well. That's been demolished and now replaced with mixed income housing. The train station was in the floodplain. Now that it's not in the floodplain, it qualified to really get rebuilt and get a new train station and dramatically increase job access. So lots of great ripple effects, again, from regreening. So the last project I'm going to show is this is a really large 700-acre, it's not your typical before condition. It was an airport in East Austin. And when they built a new one, suddenly the public owned 700 acres. And they made a commitment to really redevelop it as the most sustainable job-creating community they could. And they insisted initially, the target was 25% affordable units. By 2016, they upped that to 35% because Austin's market has been incredibly hot. So, and they're using two very interesting strategies for increasing affordability. On the one hand, it's by design, and they're integrating really affordable housing types, often referred to as missing middle. So it's duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, that sort of look still almost like individual houses, but you're actually getting more units in there. They're on very, very small lots. So that helps reduce cost. but they're also integrating a lot of sustainable features. Every house is built to be solar ready. It has a 3-star energy rating. They really minimize the amount of water that can be used for, there's almost no lawns. So and it's all designed to be very walkable and bikeable, reduce dependence on the car, reduce those costs. So it's also affordable by subsidy. So they have a shared equity program that is based on a real estate transaction fee. Every time any property sells in the entire development, 0.25% of that goes to fund a no interest second mortgage program that helps keep affordable homes in the program. So it's really, there are a lot of different strategies out there, lots of different ways to kind of, I think, take advantage of the fact that you have some vacant properties, because really, so that my last slide, what I would challenge all of you is that I would look to redevelop, re-inhabit, or re-green your underperforming 20th century suburban property types to address the 21st century challenges that they were never designed for. So that certainly includes public health, making places more walkable, really having enough of those outdoor spaces for post-pandemic, the parks, small parks, but lots of access to them in places to really help increase public health. Certainly to address issues of affordability, equity, and social capital. This, we know that that the suburbs really have always very much tended to be designed to be, suburban areas have been designed to be very segregated, and lots of, again, need to really bring people together, increase equity. Climate change. Nobody was thinking about climate change when these places were being built and these properties. Tremendous opportunities to increase water and energy resilience. The aging population, and most of them are living out in the more suburban parts of your cities. And they're not going to be able to, they shouldn't be driving for much longer. So again, that need to increase walkability. And jobs is another really interesting one. I mean, the pandemic, to some degree, is kind of giving a little bit of new life, potentially. Looks like it's going to give new life to suburban office parks. But suburban office parks have, pre-pandemic, were having very dramatic high vacancy rates. And so many jobs really have been moving back into more urban places. So retrofitting office parks to have more of that urbanism, introducing mixed use into them has been is a great retrofitting trend. And all of this really still, job one is just doing anything you can to reduce dependence on the automobile, because every one of these challenges is affected by that. And I'll close it at that.